Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely Near 13, as we are preparing to get underway here for the 4th SEC Enduro of the year at Spa-Francorchamps. Next. So real quickly, we're going to go ahead and look at the... okay, that's interesting. We're going to go ahead and look at the various drivers who we know will be taking part in today's event, starting with our lobby host, P1R Turk. He is going to be in the number 12 Chevy C8 GT machine. EXR Unfolded will be in the Dodge, I believe this is the number 55. TNR Bryker is one of a host of Mercedes entries. Number 727 TNR Mercedes, Serziani is going to be in the number 365 HYR Mercedes. TNR Geekin will be in the number 5 TNR Mercedes. ESV Green will be in the number 38 Mercedes. TNR VER Callum will be in the number 1 Mercedes. NDL Daniel will be in the number 1 BMW M8. TNR Cosner will be in... well, I don't seem to have a proper paint scheme for that, but he will be in the McLaren. Indio Uzor will be in the Ford GT. I don't have a proper paint for a large number of these cars. I do not know what the problem is there. The P1R Alto will be our second different driver in a Dodge, will be in the number 8 Dodge. NDL Dindu will be back in the Ferrari in the number 50 machine. NWR Zula will be in the number 808 Mercedes. NDL Avocado will be in the number 28 Chevrolet. ESL Decoy will be our 6th different Mercedes driver because everyone loves Mercedes. I really hope that this order changes in the future because this is really bumming out the events. I really hope we have a race where Mercedes just is not performing at all so people get out of the car. NWR Slow will be in the number 45 Mercedes, and we still have a few more drivers we are waiting on before we will start the event proper here. So we are going to end up running just a little bit behind schedule, and I do apologize for that. So for those of you who are not familiar with SEC, this is a setup that is hosted by the P1R team, and SEC is a 6-hour enduro that happens typically on the first weekend of a month, every month, and it always takes place at a different circuit. They are GT3 only, and unlike the Tour Enduros that I will broadcast usually, and that a lot of people are familiar with, SEC Enduros, in a 2-hour stint, you are racing the entire 2 hours. They will have a standing start, but that's only so that way they can get lined up on the grid properly. They will start racing once they cross the old pit lane exit that the Spa used to use, the one that is at the top of Al Rouge and Radion. So be aware, because that means that you're going to have a lot of drivers in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and so on that will be getting a massive tow going down the back straightaway, the Camel Straight. And like I said, you run all 2 hours. There's no you pull over after 100 minutes and then record distance. P1R has confidence with how Tour records the distances, and they are going to be going with that. So do keep that in mind that it will be a solid 2 hours in each stint. No breaks, no nothing like that. There is simulation damage, but we don't normally see that being an issue. Typically, the other thing to remember is that tire wear is cranked way up to about 2.5x wear. This is to encourage a large amount of pit stops. At last month's Enduro at Sebring, we were seeing 6 to 7 pit stops in a single stint because the tires were falling apart. I don't think it will be quite as aggressive here at Spa, but still, it really forces a lot of pit stops to be made. We typically see drivers running the medium tires having the best run of it, though. Usually maximizing your medium stints and then having 1 stint on softs or 2 stints on softs is the best way to go about these events. On top of that, there will be 3 different stints, and each stint will be at 8x speed. No, not 4x speed. So we will run 3 stints, 2 hours each, and that means we'll have 6 hours of racing today. I'll only be covering the first 2 stints. We'll have 6 hours of racing today, but each stint will basically be covering 8 hours in real life. So you're realistically watching what would be a 24-hour event being crammed down and super sped up into a 8-hour period. The other thing that separates P1R from most of the other big enduros is that there is a significant block of time difference between Stint 1, Stint 2, and then Stint 2 and Stint 3. There is an hour break between them. The other thing is that you only have the one lobby, so you do not have to worry about racing people in other lobbies who might be going faster or slower than you. It is literally just the people who are on track with you at the moment. You still are missing several drivers at the moment. I don't think we only have 17 showing up. I think we have something like 18 or 19, unless I'm wrong. I'll have to check, but yeah, right now we seem to be missing a handful of drivers, and we are running a little bit behind. I do apologize for that. However, thankfully, because of the hour break, we don't have to worry too much about time overruns here. Okay, so it looks like we'll be looking at a 19-car field in today's event then, by the looks of it. Spa is one of the more interesting circuits on the schedule, and honestly just one of the most interesting and complex track in all of racing. Its history dates back to the 1920s, has hosted a large amount of events in GT, Formula 1, prototypes, motorcycle racing, all sorts of stuff. One of the longest tracks, if not the longest track on the current Formula 1 calendar, I believe. I think it's one of them. If it's not the longest, it's one of the longest. Also one of, although it's definitely not the longest on the FIA WEC calendar. Be aware that obviously the MA is a lot longer. But 20 different corners, and they will be taking the green flag coming out of what would be turn 5, which would be the last of the Al Rouge Raidillon complex, and they'll fly down the Camel Straight. Turn 6 is technically the very small bend at the start of the Camel Straight. And then there will be 7, 8, 9, which is a right-hander, a left-hander, and a right-hander, each one 90 degrees. So almost like a high-speed chicane of right and left. Then they start running downhill to turn 10, which is the Bruxelles corner. That is a really, really long wraparound that's about 180 degrees. It's not quite a hairpin, but it's very slow, probably the second slowest corner on the circuit. You go into the no-name corner. That's actually gotten reprofiled in real life. We just have a slightly out-of-date track map of it here in this game. Then you run downhill into the two-part Puhong corner. That is a pair of not quite flat left-handers, and the big reason they're not quite flat is that while you are running downhill, there is a bit of a straight between the two halves, and you will pick up a lot of extra speed. So it's possible to be at the proper speed into the first half of Puhong and then be going too fast in the second half. It's also possible to be going too slow in the first half of Puhong and just not have the ability to make up the time. Out of Puhong, you continue to run downhill into 13, 14, and 15, the campus sections. Turn 13, turn 15 almost feel like perfect mirrors of each other, but you'll take slightly less speed into turn 15. Then it's another hard right-hander to start sector 3. Turn 16 is another 90-degree right-hander, but opens up shortly after the apex of the corner, so a lot of drivers will try to extend the track. You need to be careful not to run too wide and end up off into the dirt coming out of there. Then it's what would be the longest straight on the circuit, if not for how tight the upcoming corner is. Turn 17, Blancmont should be flat with these cars. It's flat with almost every car nowadays. And then turn 18 is a much harder, it's about a, maybe a 60-degree corner? Yeah, probably a little less than that, maybe closer to 30, honestly, but it's a left-hander. However, because of the angling of the track and the fact that the extreme inside kind of drops out under you, you almost have to let off a bit. If you see anyone taking that corner flat out, they will, without a doubt, be in a great position today. Then it's a big run into the final chicane. 1920 is a pair of 100 to 120 degree corners. 19 is to the hard right, and then 20 is to the hard left. Okay, so it looks like we have had two other people show up. This is Leechard, who is in another Mercedes. There needs to be a restriction on how many Mercedes are allowed to enter. And then NDL Pipes is going to be in the BMW. I believe this is the only BMW Yeah, he's in the only BMW GT3. That's interesting, because we do have NDL Daniel, who is sticking with the BMW M8, but then we have NDL Pipes, who is in the BMW M4. So that's interesting, because the BMW M4 only became available about 2 weeks ago, and when that happened, the entire thing was, hey, all the M8 drivers are allowed to move over to the M4 if they so desire, but there is still a team, apparently, that is stuck with the older BMW. As we begin to load onto the circuit here, we'll try to knock out an ad break before we get underway on track. Alright, welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps, and there may have been some sort of issue as they were struggling to get the grid properly ordered up by the looks of it. I think they've got it all taken care of now, though. So EXR Unfolded will lead ESV Green coming up to the Al Rouge and Radion corners here. $18 cars, with Unfolded being your leader. As they come up to the exit of the old pit lane, we will start our 2-hour event here at Spa. And we are underway. The Dodge is going to be one of the slowest cars in a straight line. It's going to have a huge chunk of drivers behind with a big toe. What can Unfolded do to try and defend as they go down the Campbell Straight and into the first hard braking zone of the event? Green does not make a move, but there is lots of stuff going on a little bit farther back in the field, though. So ESV Green and the Mercedes is going to hold station behind the Dodge Viper just for the moment. Down into the next corner there. Geekin is having a heck of a fight there with Avocado, and Avocado in the Chevrolet just can't do anything. He's trapped on the outside, slides back into the inside line, but has lost a position in the process, and now the field comes running down into Hone, and Unfolded already has a distance penalty. I forgot it's distance penalties, not time penalties, but he already has a distance penalty. So right now, all Green has to do is just pressure Unfolded to keep adding up his distance penalty total and then try to get past them whenever they are on their first round of pit stops. Green does not really need to worry about any rush. And Uzora and the 4GT has already slipped not only to the back of the grid, but he has completely lost the back of the field. We're not sure what's happened there. We'll try to get a better idea in a bit. Green continues to run just behind Unfolded. And now here comes Green. He looks to the inside. Unfolded comes down, chops the nose off. It's very obvious that while the Dodge Viper might have a good lap in him, the fact that the Viper is so much slower in a straight line is really not going to help him. Here comes Green to the inside into the chicane in the final corners, but Unfolded goes a little bit deeper to try and cover him up. We're going to be side by side on the run out, and on the start-finish line straight, it's going to be a drag race down the straight. Green, Unfolded, and Green will easily pull away from Unfolded. There's just not a single thing you can do in the Dodge when it comes to a car versus car fight because the Dodge is so much slower in a straight line. We see already that Unfolded had a good run out of the corner, but there are too many straightaways here for the Dodge to do anything. Green already has the top position, and unsurprisingly, unless we see an ESV driver lag out like what happened at the Silverstone event 2 months ago, it looks like Green is going to walk off with another walkaway by the entire ESV field. And apparently the word is that the Mercedes got a massive nerf coming into today's event, and yet despite that, more and more drivers have been deciding to go to the Mercedes field. So I can't really fault the officials setting the event up if everyone just wants to play sheeple and follow the leader and just go with whatever car the winning driver is on. If no one has confidence in their own abilities to make something else work, there's nothing that the officials can do. And to be fair, with the ESC guys, you have to realize it's ESV. They are infamous for showing up and making many events snooze fests by just walking off and dominating. But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily in the better cars if they just have setups that are better than what everyone else can put together. Well, already, the Dodge that started up front, EXR Unfolded, was not even able to lead an entire lap and is already rapidly dropping down the order. You can see that it's not that the Dodge is significantly off pace. He is honestly faster than everything else in the corners, but Spa-Francorchamps has so many straightaways. It doesn't even have to be an ultra-long straightaway, but there are so many straightaways that the Dodge immediately loses ground. The Dodge's big strength is all about grip and torque. That's the big thing that the Viper platform has always been fantastic on in these games. And that's just not going to help you here at Spa, not when you have to go mano-a-mano. TNR Geekin moved up into third early on, so it is Mercedes rating 1-3 at the moment. Then you have a Chevrolet holding up. That is a BMW M4. No, that is the M8. That is the M8. And then just behind them is TNR Biker, who is in another Mercedes. So a bit of a struggle here, 4th, 5th, and 6th. As they come down the pit straightaway here. Riker on the outside of Pipes. Pipes already has a little bit of time penalty at this stage of the event. Most of the field is honestly spread out pretty well. Now we're already seeing a lot of the fights kind of going away at this stage of the event right now. Everyone's already just kind of turning hot laps by themselves by the looks of it. Riker has a run on Avocado though. Mercedes to the outside of the Chevrolet. And the Mercedes is so much faster in a straight line. But Avocado is not going to push the issue. He breaks early and gives Riker the position. So Mercedes now run 1st, 3rd, and 4th at the moment. Right, how much faster they are in a straight line, I have to wonder if they have something that they might be able to pull on EXR Unfolded. Riker's already pulled away from Avocado, so despite qualifying very strongly in the top 3 with that Chevrolet, it's just this car does not seem to have what it takes to really do anything in a fight. Looking a little bit farther back, this is ESL Decoy here, who's trying to keep the McLaren of TNR Cosner behind. There we are. My TV had reset its settings and I was having a bit of a motion blur. I apologize for that. But already, the top 3 have already pulled away massively from the rest of the field. And while Riker has opened up a small gap on the Chevrolet, he is nowhere close to running down Geekin, who is in 3rd position. And then you have this fight here. This is from about 16th on up. Serziani is looking ahead. See the field going through there in the turn 1 hairpin. You got Mercedes there, you got Dodges there, you got all sorts of stuff going on there. And on the run uphill, ooh, that could be really risky there. That's a gaggle of cars up through Al Rouge and Radion. Look at that. Daniel, Alto, Leechard, Ziani, all on top of each other. And already our leaders have gone through the end of the Camel Straight, and already a lot of drivers have been stacking up the distance penalties here. Honestly, I'm more surprised at that than anything else. Well, early on in this event, Mercedes muscle, at least in a straight line, seems to be the big defining feature. But I have to wonder if that's going to last as the event goes on. Real quickly, I want to go ahead and take a look at the tire wear of our lead car. 37%, oh, 38 on the front. For second place, unfolded. 37%, 36 in the rears though, so the Dodge is gaining slightly better tire wear compared to our lead Mercedes, but is that enough? I don't think it will be enough to let him go an extra lap. 39s for Geeky, he's now hit 40s. So while Green is going well on the tires, the third place Mercedes is not, and look at this, fourth place Riker is honestly closer to what our leader is at when it comes to tire life. Then we have NDL Pipes in the BMW that has worked his way up. 41% already. NDL Avocado, who is in that Chevrolet, 27, but I'm guessing the Avocado is on a harder tire compound. I'm not sure if he's on the mediums or the hards. I would assume he's on the mediums. But if that's the case, he is the first driver on mediums in the entire field and is just being absolutely destroyed. And he's turned by Cosner! And Cosner has turned Avocado coming out, and that is not the only one. There's another car that was involved in an instant there. That was Dindu. Dindu had to swerve. He may have hit him. I don't think there's any damage. And that's the risk of running harder tires, that you could get turned trying to keep track position against drivers who will be, especially here at Spa, multiple seconds a lap faster. Dindu will have lost position. Avocado has fallen well down the order, and so has Cosner. Cosner is dropping down. He has had an accident at the Al Rouge and Radion complex. He has had an accident coming out of Radion. No damage. He'll be able to continue in the McLaren, but Cosner has had his day derailed. He's turned Avocado and is now dropped to the back of the field just about 3 corners later. So chaos reigns once you get out of the top 5 here. And in all of this, it brings the Mercedes of ESL Decoy up into the 6th position. And then TNR VER Callum and another Mercedes comes up to 7th. NWR Slow, another Mercedes up to 8th. And Zula is now up to 9th. So now in the top 9 alone, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 Mercedes in the top 9 positions. So even though the Mercedes got a big nerf, it is obviously not working out, because after an incident, suddenly Mercedes make up 7 of our top 9 positions here at Spa-Francorchamps. And EXR Unfolded is continuing to slide backwards into the grasp of ESV Green, of TNR Geekin, and Green has absolutely ran away from the field here at this stage of the event. Waiting for when the first round of pit stops will inevitably unfold here. Already our leader is in the 52% range. We're going to knock out an ad break here and hope that when we come back, we can catch the field as they start to make their first round of stops here at Spa-Francorchamps. Well, welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We're watching TNR Geekin right now, as we are expecting he will be the first of our lead 3 to make the first pit stop of the day, as we are about 15 minutes into our 2-hour event. And sure enough, here comes second and third, Unfolded and Geekin, both coming into the pits now at the same time. Oh, Green's come in. In fact, the entire top 7 have all come in at the same time. Is this going to be one of those days where there's just no variety in pit stop strategy at all? Not so! Dindu is going to be the one to save us from monotony. He is going to stay out for an extra lap in the Ferrari. He is at 40% wear right now, so he is on a medium tire strategy, I believe, right now. And he is joined by Avocado, who had been way higher up the road, but got turned earlier. So Avocado stays out, Daniel stays out, and so does Uzora. The big thing is, this won't really matter, because unless Daniel gives Green a bit of a problem here, Green is already in clean air. Again, we need to, if we want to see anything decent of a fight at the front here, we need to see Daniel get a great run on Green and try to pull alongside him going down the Camel straightaway, but it just does not look like that's a possibility. The Mercedes are too fast in a straight line, and there's nothing that Daniel can do to try and do anything against Green, and by the time they get into the following set of corners, Green already has heat in the tires and is completely clean air ahead. So yep, Green is going to walk off with this stint win without issue. Unfolded is now going to go by Daniel, so it's very obviously that it's just not even a case of Daniel did anything wrong. It just seems like Daniel does not really have anything to do with the harder tire compound right now. But Dindu and Avocado are trying to really stretch the distance here at Spa, try to minimize pit stops. I believe these drivers are on the medium strategy for their first stop at the moment here. ESV Green in third on a softer tire, under the belief that going faster will be the more important thing to do here. Interesting thing about Spa's pit lane, though, is that it's honestly one of the shorter pit lanes in the entire game, because you do not use any of the extended runouts or run-ins. It means that realistically, Spa, more than anywhere else, is a perfect circuit to just go ahead and go for full lap time and not worry about trying to cut out a pit stop. You do not lose nearly as much time here compared to most other circuits. Add to that the pit lane is really a very small percentage of the overall lap. I would not be surprised if we see this duo of Dindu and Avocado having to finish well outside of the top 10. Daniel was the third driver if not stopped, along with Uzora and Turk. So 5 drivers are on the medium for the first stint strategy. Everyone else pitted on the exact same lap, though. And I have to wonder how much of that comes down to the fact they were all on the same tires, and there's not really a lot of room for variety in tire wear. Dindu is having a bit of a trouble there. Dindu very nearly went into the wall. And the Ferrari had a big slide. You started to see him there have a bit of a twitch on the run uphill, and the car completely lost control. I don't know how he kept it out of the wall, but the Ferrari driver has slipped back to second position, lost a huge chunk of time. Now, we saw Dindu back in the ISC's GT3 series last year win a race in the Ferrari here at Spa. Difference, though, is that was under some really heavy rain, but now you're carrying a lot more speed into the corners on much, much slicker tires, and these tires have a lot more wear on them, and it seems like the Ferrari's traditional handling issues are starting to come to light as the fuel load burns up and as the tires have burnt off all their best, and Dindu has now slipped to second behind Avocado. He's already closing back in on the Chevrolet, but while that's all happened, Green has continued to close in. So again, these two, I'm going to be honest, for Avocado and Dindu, I think they're going to just be fighting to try and get a top 10 end result here. They just do not have the pace of the rest of the field. Dindu has a bit of a slide there, as he's still trying to close in on Avocado. Avocado, I wonder if the car is heavy enough to keep him from sliding, but that also means that he just can't do anything. All right, the only thing is, this does make some potential good news for Unfolded, because if Green is held up trying to get by this group, Unfolded might be able to try and close in on Green, and we could have some sort of fight here at the head of the field in the top podium positions. Avocado holding station against Dindu. Here comes Green. He's right in range right now. Chevrolet, Ferrari on older, harder tires versus Green on soft, fresher tires. Onto the straightaway now, the start-finish line straight. Green's not pushing the issue yet, and it's let Unfolded close in just a bit more. They all go through turn one hairpin, nose to tail for the top four. Now they start to fan out, fight for second. It is Dindu versus Green. Dindu seems to have the acceleration out by virtue of having a wider line out of the hairpin. Now through Al Rouge and Ratty on, and there's a big twitch by Ferrari again, right in front of Green. Dindu very nearly hits the outside wall this time, and suddenly Green is under attack from Unfolded, and Unfolded is coming to his inside. Now again, the Dodge does not have that much straight line speed, but he got the draft. He's gonna be giving Green some headaches going into the end of the Camel Straight. Green on the outside, Unfolded on the inside. The Mercedes holds the position, but Unfolded is still right there, and there's still another car ahead they have to deal with. Avocado has not put a tire run outside of being dumped several laps ago, and now he's got two cars on faster tires right behind him. Avocado trying to keep Green held up. Unfolded wants that Chevrolet to keep that Mercedes backed up as long as possible. Here comes Green to the inside of Avocado into the double left-hand downhill. Green is going to make the move without issue. Unfolded will follow. Unfolded pulls up right behind Green's rear bumper again. On the run downhill. Unfolded looks to the outside. Can't make it. Falls back in line. Trying to get Green a little bit unsteady here. Trying to do anything he can to try to keep his hopes of winning our first stint here alive. Just about nose to tail. Now it pulls to the inside. That will turn to the outside in these next two corners. But he's got the nose ahead for the moment. Neck and neck. A little bit of hip checking. Unfolded has to back way out so he doesn't go offline and add to his time, to his distance penalties. And that gives Green the lead back, and that pretty much settles the race for good unless Green has a disconnect. And Avocado and Dindu will finally pit out of second and third position. One of Daniel and Uzora and P1R Turk. Here comes Daniel, here comes Uzora, and that means that P1R Turk is likely going to be joining them very shortly here. And the other Chevrolet, look at that 63% tire wear. That's the big thing about Spa. The lap times are, the lap in general is so long here that there's just no real room for any variety within a pit stop strategy. If you are going to go 40 laps on a tire, there's no, oh, maybe I can cut it down to 39, maybe I can extend it to 41. You're kind of locked into going 40. Same thing with the fuel. This track is so big, there's just not going to be a lot of variety when it comes to one lap undercuts or overcuts. We're not going to see any of that at all today, especially with the accelerated tire wear. So I do think we're going to look at an event where as this goes on, we're just going to see a lot of this come down to who's going to end up being where when it comes to overall lap times and how long can you stand, not stand, but how long can you drive in relatively clean air so you can knock off those great lap times. At this stage of the event, Mercedes now hold almost every position in the top 5, 4 of the top 5 spots. And still they hold 6 of the top 9 positions right now. So despite P1R's efforts to try and make the field a little bit more balanced, it is not paying any dividends, and the Mercedes are massively overrepresented here today. But I do have to give credit to Unfolded for qualifying up near the front and keeping some sort of fight alive through the first quarter of our first stint here. The fight for fourth. ESL Decoy trying to keep TNR Bryker behind at the moment. Bryker goes for a lunge on Decoy. and chops him off, but Decoy's going to cross over on the exit of the corner, and now we'll begin to accelerate. It's going to be a drag race down the start-finish straightaway once again. Tight, intense fighting there. And Callum is right there ready to capitalize. Right on board with Pipes, as he is the fourth in this four-car train, going to go up to the Al Rouge Radion complex here. Big twitch from the BMW. He just does not have the speed, he does not have the stability through Al Rouge Radion. He actually loses time. And then, on top of that, he just doesn't have the straight line speed either. So the Mercedes' biggest advantage seems to be in the Al Rouge and Radion complex. More than anything else, they're able to take much more speed through those corners without any issue there. Nearly 3 wide ahead. Riker and Decoy door baiting each other. Indio Pipes now gets up behind Callum. Callum is stuck behind this duel, but he does not feel confident enough to try and make it 3 wide for the position here. Out of the no-name corner, and now they run down to Luan. Riker again looks to the inside of Decoy. Now he looks to the outside. Callum nearly pulls alongside, but he doesn't like the idea of pushing the issue. He backs out of it. Interesting four-way nose-to-tail fight continues here. Here comes Riker again, has a run on Decoy. Big twitch from the BMW, and I'm seeing this happen from every car that's not a Dodge, basically. Every car is having a gigantic twitch. Oh, and Riker now is the one who slides out a bit. But every car is having a every non-Mercedes is having a gigantic twitch going through the higher speed corners and seems to be scrubbing off time in the process. The Mercedes are not having that problem, and the Dodge is not having that problem, but the Dodge is not having that problem because the Dodge is just going so much slower through the corners than anyone else. Also, NWR slow, and another Mercedes has just about caught that fight for fourth, so it's going to be a 5-way battle here. Deacon is continuing to close down on EXR Unfolded, but I don't know if he's doing it at a rate that will give him a shot at taking a spot later on. And Callum, using the draft, has finally gotten by Riker here. I do want to go ahead and look at the tire life of these drivers in this fight for fourth. ESL Decoy at the head is at 56% right now. Callum, who is in second in this little fight, he is at 53%, so he has used up a lot less of the tires. Then you have Riker, who is in sixth, 57%. So we might see a little bit of variety when it comes to how far these drivers go on this stint. 58% here for Pipes. Then you have Slow, who is in the lone BMW in this gaggle of cars, 56%. And then you have Zoop. Oh, that was Slow I just looked at, wasn't it? Did I double skip someone? 57. I may have double skipped someone. 1 second here. Let me double check here. This is Riker. He is at 60%. He has pushed his tires too far. He'll have to pit this time. This is Pipes, who's actually pulled up a position. He is at 61%. Then you have TNR Callum. He is at 57%. And Decoy, who is at 60%. So no, I think everyone's going to have to pit at just about the same time. Callum might have the tire life to go an extra lap, but I don't know if that would actually give him any significant advantage here. Our leaders are already in the pits, and no, Callum is! So Callum has saved enough tires. He has pushed his tire life out an extra lap somehow, but almost the entire rest of the field is going to stay is going to pit. Avocado will stay out a little longer, obviously. So will Dindu. We'll see the same likely from Uzora and Turk near the back. But Callum will be our third different leader of the day. If he leads coming out of Alaruz and Radion, who'll be our second leader at the line thus far today. We're going to knock out an ad break, and when we come back, we'll catch Callum making his second stop of the day. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps, and look at the tire wear on Callum. He stayed out on track 1 lap longer, and he is almost at 70% wear. He basically burned through about 12% of his life on that final lap. Rumor is that Riker may have hit the pause, might be getting a penalty for apparently pausing under a pit cycle is worth a penalty. That's an interesting rule, but okay. But Callum went 1 lap longer, and it has pretty much derailed his run. He has lost so much time by staying out 1 lap longer and lost about 12% extra tire life in the process. And now Callum has dropped down to 10th and might fall behind Pipes and Slow here, as they have a run on him. BMW's got a run all right, but he's not going to push the issue, not now. Oh, that BMW very nearly loses control. Again, only the Mercedes and the Dodges have been able to maintain speed. Oh, it was Beacon, not right. Okay. It seemed like only the Mercedes and the Dodges are able to maintain speed at the end of these high-speed corners, and TNR VER Callum has lagged out. Well, either he lagged out or he rage quitted. We'll try to reach out to Callum here, but if he's not willing to jump into the party, I think that will make it pretty clear that he's not interested in talking, but staying out for an extra lap basically derailed his entire run. And that looks like it's gonna, like I said earlier, it seems like the entire strategy, the entire way this race is gonna come out is just gonna be a matter of how many laps can you turn in clean air on good tires. All right, coming into the party right now is TNR VER Callum. Callum, you should have the ability to include your audio in the Xbox chat.
Yeah,
go ahead and do so. All right.
Done. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Lovely. Yeah, the game just had a meltdown. There was no lag or anything, and all of a sudden the game was just crashed. But yeah, I was making up positions and on the opening lap of the race. I got half spun, got me towards the back of the field. Made my way back up to that battle going on for 4th place. Managed to do an extra lap, hoping to essentially just get that extra lap of fresher tyres on everyone, so I can try and jump them in the next pit stop and try and get away that way. But yeah, the game just crashed as soon as I came out the pits near enough, so that was the end of that.
All right, I do have some other questions I want to ask, though. That extra lap on the tires, it looked like you pushed to about 69 to 70% on that left front, lost a lot of time, but do you, like, I am curious, like, after you did that, were you still like, okay, I can do this, I can make the, you know, fresher tires the rest of the time work, or were you like, oh, I've lost too much time, it's over?
Well, I knew if I was going to stay in the same strategy as everyone else around me, I would be stuck battling with them for the entire race. So I thought I'd try something different because a lot of guys, they're on a controller. I use a wheel, so I've got that bit of the advantage of saving tyres, just that little bit more. My tyres didn't go moderate until, well, after Eau Rouge. That's when they turned moderate. So while everyone was pitting because they were on moderate, mine was still decently enough alright. So I knew if I just tried that, I would have hoped it would make a difference for me to jump on when they got their moderate tyre away, and I still got that extra lap under me to try and build a bit of a gap.
All right, one other question I have to ask, and this is about the big question about the Mercedes Mafia. We're looking at, I believe, 7 different Mercedes in the top 9 positions before that second round of stops. Officials said that they nerfed the Mercedes, but more and more people are going to the Mercedes. You are one of the Mercedes drivers. What is the strength? If I was to start running this series, sell me on the Mercedes. What is giving the Mercedes so much strength? Because I can only assume so much from my position on the outside looking in.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it was a last-minute car change. I didn't know what car I was going to use, but I seen another team for TNR. They said they're using the Merc, so I thought I'd do it. I've always liked the Merc anyway. Even in online hoppers, I've always used it. It suits my driving style. It's a very balanced car. Once you got it set up properly, with it being front engine, you think it'll understate. But once you get a decent enough setup on it, it does go great around the corners. It's the best all-rounder sort of car, and that's why I chose it.
All right, that makes sense. I can only say what it looks like from here. From my position, at least, it looks like only the Mercedes and the Dodge are able to take high-speed corners without having any twitches, and I thought that may have been the reason, but if it was just a matter of, hey, if this is what all the other big teams are running, there's not much you can do. But I do want to say thanks for jumping in and talking with us. If you want to stay in the broadcast booth and for the rest of this stint, I have no problem with this, because I hate to say it, but this race is not really the most intense event out there. Everyone's gotten very much spread out after the second round of stops today. So if you want to stick around and chat away, feel free. I have no issue with that.
No worries, I suppose I can stay. I've got nothing else to do, so here I am.
All right, so now we have our own driver analyst from the TNR team and TNR VER Callum here. I do want to ask, while you were out there, did you see that big incident that happened coming out of the final chicane on about lap 3 or 4, where the Chevrolet of Avocado got spun in front of the field?
No, I saw the end of it. I saw it was stuck in basically the middle of the road, and cars were just going everywhere. I was busy fighting with everyone else. I mean, we were bumper to bumper, so I couldn't see anything in front of me, but yeah, it wasn't until I got there where I realised, oh, there's a car in the middle, I better choose a side.
Real. Well, I understand. I do have to ask, though, since you were on the soft strategy, it looked like you were just going to go soft, soft, soft through all the pit stops throughout the rest of the race. What laps, or what time, I guess, should we be anticipating everyone to make the remaining stops, and how many stops are we anticipating from the majority of the field today?
I'm expecting around 5, 6 stops. I can't say too much because it's our own little strategy we've got going on. But
Okay.
yeah, with this sort of series, it is mainly soft tyres. Obviously, people will try different things. Mediums might work. I mean, it might have worked for me when I was stuck battling with everyone because we were losing time anyway, so maybe I could have tried that out, possibly, but with the times of tyre wear and fuel, you've got to try and match it perfectly to when your fuel runs out, to when your tyres basically die down. Otherwise, you're just going to have too much fuel and you'll just be generally slower. So that's how it generally works out anyway.
Dindu has just had another gigantic slide. This is the third time that Dindu has had a completely out of control slide through the Alrouge and Radeon section. And this time I thought for sure that Ferrari was going to take the BMW of NDL Pipes with them. Didn't do is on one of those medium strategies. He is running only the mediums thus far today, and it's just not been working out because every time those tires start to wear out, he is losing control and is completely sideways every time they come through Radeon. I don't know how in the world Dindu has not wrecked the car. If I was in the NDL camp, I would suggest that P1R should start scoring points for the sickest drifts out there because that Ferrari is absolutely pulling out some insane slides today. But no, I understand, Calum, you don't want to share all the exact strategies and stuff, although I will say, sad news is it looks like everyone is on the exact same strategy when it comes to the softs. This track, Spa-Francorchamps, is so massive, and you burn up so much fuel and so much tire just running a single lap here. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of room for flexing the strategy very much. But yeah, I do understand you want to keep that under the chest, and I won't prod you on that in that scenario.
Yeah, well, what you call it? I was on to do my own little strategy when I paired a lap later anyway. I did have a feeling maybe just possibly trying the mediums out, try and get a gap, but that all would have depended on if I was able to get a gap, and obviously I would never know that because the game crashed.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I wanted to try.
I was honestly kind of interested to see where that was going to come out because you were, at the least, you were ahead of NDL Pipes, who was in the BMW, going up through Alrouge and Radeon, so it looked like you hadn't lost too much ground in that giant fight on fourth that you were taking part. So it was really interesting to see how that would have turned out, but we'll never know.
I know.
We are about 3/8 of the way through our first stint here. ESV Green started second, took the lead going through the turn 19-20 chicane the very first time around, and Green has led every lap thus far except one. That was off of, well, actually technically out except for two, off of the back of green flag stops, and Green has honestly not pulled a massive amount away from EXR Unfolded, but right now Green's biggest advantage is that at this stage of the event, he is the only driver with no distance penalties, and that gives you extra points as well. Now remember, the ESV team does have a bit of a hole they have to dig out of. They had that DNF during the second stint of the event at Silverstone, and in the Silverstone event, they were categorized way down the order because so few other drivers have had disconnects. So the ESV team is trying to pull themselves out of a hole when it comes to the points, but when it comes to the races, they've really been making the fight at the front kind of boring. Unfolded started first, has not really led a single lap. He's gotten up to Green when Green has been helped with traffic, has put pressure on Green, but the Dodge does not have straight line speed. They have the stability in the corner, in the higher speed corners, which is the same thing we've been seeing from, and there we are, we see everyone now making their third round of stops here. We have been seeing that the Dodge can match the Mercedes in the higher speed corners, and they are much faster in the slower speed corners, but it just doesn't matter. That car is all cornering grip and initial torque, and they do not seem to have the straight line ability to do anything to make a fight for any position here, as everyone is knocking out their next stops. I do want to give a little shout to Uzora. Now, granted, it is partially coming off the back that he is on a radically alternate strategy, but Uzora had an instant on the first lap here at Spa and fell not only to the back of the field, but completely lost touch with the rest of the grid, and now he has ran the first round of the race on medium tires, and now he is on the same strategy, or at least making the same pit stop in time with the rest of the field, and he is fighting for what could be a potential top 12 result. So very unexpected turnaround for that 4GT entry today. P1R Turk in the Chevy is going to stay out in that Three Amigos machine.
Well, Pipes has stayed out.
Yeah, Pipes stayed out as well. I missed that. Good point. I do want to ask, who is going to be driving your car, the TNR car that you were in? Who's going to be driving that car in Stint 2 later on today?
That shall be Glizzy.
All right, we'll be watching TNR and Glizzy, and hopefully he doesn't get swallowed up and gulped down by the entire field in Stint 2 then.
Yeah, well, we've got to be starting last, I think, aren't we? So there's a hard chance of that happening.
Yeah, this is true, I guess, but...
But hey, we can only go up from here, though, right?
That is one way of looking at it. As this is, I do want to go ahead and say, Avocado, by virtue of staying out, he has actually cycled back up to 3rd position despite having a spin out earlier. But again, Avocado is on an alternate strategy. He is going far on the mediums, and maybe there is something that he can make happen here. Pipes has just been overtaken by Dindu down at the bottom of the circuit here. So I do have to wonder, maybe there is merit on the medium strategy if you can control the car. Avocado qualified 3rd, dropped down the order, spun out, but now all of a sudden he is running 3rd. Granted, it's on an alternate strategy, but maybe there is something of legitimacy to do when it comes to that all-medium strategy here. I am a little bit curious if you're able to share this. What kind of top speed were you hitting in the draft going down the Campbell Straight? Because during that big 4 or 5 car battle for 4th, before the 2nd pit stop, you were hanging out right in the middle of it. What kind of speeds were you hitting at the end of the Campbell Straight?
You know what? I didn't even check what speed I was getting. I'll go on, because I did stream my stint anyway. I'll have a look and let you know. How about that?
All right, I'll take that. I'm not really in the position to get a lot of great information here. While I could have brought up the telemetry, I try not to do it too much because it kind of breaks the flow of the stream. But I do say that says a lot about how comfortable you were with the car, considering you weren't even looking at the data. You were just kind of locked in the middle of the fight right now. P1R Turk is finally going to make his 2nd stop of the day. I think Turk is on a hard strategy. Every event, there seems to be at least one driver who is committed to going hard all the way through the event. And hards are hard. Hards are hard to maximize here, or really to maximize anywhere at the track. You are, on most circuits, Spa is a little bit of an outlier because it's such a massive track, but on most circuits, the mediums are about 0.7 to 1.2 second a lap slower than the softs, and then hards are another 0.7 to 1.2 second a lap slower than the mediums. So making anything work out of the hard tires is incredibly difficult to do. To put things in perspective, we have not seen a driver doing the all-hard strategy get a top 10 result yet this season in P1R. And in some of the other events that I've been fortunate enough to broadcast, drivers on the hards have almost never factored anywhere near the head of the field. It seems like it's mediums or softs or nothing in this game.
Yeah,
Avocado is pushed.
Kind of useless on this game.
Yeah. I do think you could probably make the hards work in some circumstances if you pushed up the tire life up to something like 3.5 times wear or 4 times wear, to where the hards are the only tires that can use an entire fuel run. But this series, the Enduros, the SEC Enduros that P1R runs, they only run at 2.5 times wear. So it really kind of makes it a matter of, do the 2004 Ferrari strategy of just pit a whole lot of times in an event, but, constantly turning out banger laps, or do the other and just try to go for the mediums to cut out pit stops. I am seeing a bit of a fight a little bit farther down the grid here for 8th and 9th. This is Daniel and Bryker, 2 of the drivers you were fighting with earlier. And then there is Zula, who is caught up to the back of this fight as well. Excuse me. So, yeah. If we close our eyes, we can imagine that Callum is right here in the middle of this fight. But sadly, that's imagination, not reality. It is a shame because I was really interested to see where that strategy was going to turn up. Oh, and wow, that was a big slide there by Daniel right in front of the field coming out. That's another non-Mercedes. It's a BMW this time with a big slide at the top of the Al Rouge and Radion section, and Bryker just goes right by. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, no non-Mercedes and non-Dodge machine are able to take the higher speed corners here with speed. They all seem to be sliding, losing control of the car. I've seen it happen with the Dodges. I've seen it happen with the BMWs, both BMWs. I've seen it happen with the Ferraris. It's only the Mercedes and the Dodges that are able to take these higher speed corners without issue here. So Daniel, who had about a second gap on Bryker, is now about 7 tenths behind Bryker and slipped back to 9th now. We're expecting to see Avocado come into the pits either this lap or the next. Again, real quickly, I look at the amount of time penalties thus far, and it's just not looking good at all. Avocado finally paying out 3rd position. Green, no time penalties whatsoever. But then again, when you're just out there by yourself turning hot laps, you don't really have to worry about time penalties at all. Unfolded is at a 1/10 of a mile distance penalty right now. Most of that he picked up on the first lap, just trying to keep Green behind him. Geekin in 3rd is at 2.215 mile distance penalty. Avocado, who is in the pits right now, is at 0.047 distance penalty. I think it was the second lowest of the entire grid. Oh! Daniel smashes the wall coming into the pits there. Dindu is over 1/3 of a mile when it comes to his distance penalty. Bryker is at 0.06 mile for his distance penalty. NDL Pipes is at 0.216 mile distance penalty. NWR Slow is at 0.268 distance penalty. Daniel 0.208 distance penalty. Leechard 0.346. I think this is the highest of everyone in the grid. Goes to Leechard when it comes to distance penalties. Zula is at 0.244. Uzora is at 0.234. Cosner, who was also involved in that spin that Avocado had, and then had an instant of his own coming out of Radion. Cosner is at 0.189 distance penalty. Alto is at 0.189 distance penalty as well. Serziani is at 0.175 distance penalty. And at the back of the field, P1R Turk is at 0.222 distance penalty right now. So we are not yet halfway through the event. Big slide by Avocado as he is trying to stay ahead of Bryker after making their first stops of the day. So now we're seeing a little bit more variety when it comes to pit stop strategies. If a lot of those drivers who jumped onto the mediums for the first stint or two are now starting to abandon or trying to push their stints longer or shorter, trying to really shake up their strategies here. We're going to go ahead and knock out an advertisement break. And when we return, we'll be at about the halfway distance here for Stint 1 of P1R's 6-hour Enduro at Spa here. Don't go away, we'll be back shortly. All right, welcome back to Spa Francorchamps. Right now, we are watching a fight going on between Indio Uzora and TNR Cosner. We are also joined in the broadcast booth today by our temporary on loan from the TNR team, driver analysis, TNR VER Callum. Callum was having an interesting day, had a bit of an incident early on, then gradually fought his way back up through the grid into a fight for what was the 4th position before lagging out, and now it looks like he's spending the rest of the day here in the broadcast booth with us. Callum, tire wear. Oh! And Uzora's just been hit by Cosner, as knocked way off circuit. Thankfully, it was in the pull-on corner, so the walls are a good ways away. He wasn't at risk of hitting anything, but Uzora is going to give up a huge amount of time to Cosner after that. Cosner has already opened up his legs and scooted away from Uzora. I imagine Uzora is not going to be happy with that. Will likely try to submit some sort of thing for the officials to look at post-event for that. He is not going to be happy with that one bit. There's also a fight for 5th going on. Avocado is on fresh, I believe, soft tires. Bryker is on much, much worn soft tires right now. And you burn up about 10% of your tire life a lap on the softs. So you really only have about 6 laps you can go on the softs before you have to pit. And then we saw that Callum tried to stretch it out to 7 laps earlier. We weren't really sure how that was going to turn out. But, yeah, Avocado right now has the advantage over Bryker, but Bryker is holding steady. Mercedes not having any sort of handling fall off as these runs go on. This is the really one of only 2 major fights going on the circuit right now. The majority of the field has kind of spread out into just running hot laps and then trying to min-max the distance on their strategies. We've not really seen any serious fights outside of this one and that brief battle between Cosner and Uzora since the end of the 2nd round of stops.
I'm also curious to see what strategy people are running, because at the start it looked very same, and then all of a sudden it's all in the air now.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot more variety. I wonder if a lot of people realize in the 3rd stint what you realized in the 2nd pit stop strategy, that if you're just running the exact same strategy as everyone else, you're going to spend so much time fighting them that's not going to be worth anything. So I wonder if drivers are now undercutting and overcutting just to try and run more time in clean air. Leaders are coming in once again, though. Green and Unfolded in the pits. I imagine we'll see Geekin coming in, Decoy coming in. Avocado will probably stay out and go back to the front for a little while. Well, near the front for a while. But yeah, I imagine we're going to see a lot of the drivers start pitting once again here. Oh, Bryker's staying out another lap. So wait, Bryker, is he on a medium stint right now then? Well, he's at 62%, Bryker is now, and that was about where, that's a little bit more than where your tires were on when you extended the lap, but you extended on the softs. I think Bryker is on the mediums and trying to go farther on the mediums, so I'm curious to see where Bryker's tires are going to be on this extended medium run here. Still, even with those very worn out mediums, there's no sign of Mercedes giving up any handling, while literally every other manufacturer that's not Mercedes and Dodge is having a massive fall off when it comes to grip in the higher speed corners as their tires wear away. Well, even after not stopping, Avocado and Bryker are only 3rd and 4th. That really kind of sells home how dominant Green and Unfolded have been in today's event. There's just been no one who has been anywhere close to their level today. The only time that Green's been held up is when he's been dealing with traffic. Interestingly enough, typically, when you want to deal with traffic, you want to be able to outrun them in a straight line so they're not compromising your corners. Green the few times he has caught traffic, which was really just cars on an alternate strategy, the few times Green has caught traffic, he always seems to catch them in the corners and loses a lot more time. And Unfolded, even though he is in a Dodge, which is not doing great when it comes to sheer straight line speed, he is able to beat them for the most part in the straightaways and then diving deeper into the corners, so it's not really compromising his lines that much. Geekin has just gone by Bryker here, and now as we see Bryker about to come into the stop, Bryker is at 73% tire wear. Holy moly, those things are cooked. He plows the outside wall. Bryker really pushing the distance on those tires, 73%. Wow, that is a lot of confidence he had. But now we get to see one of the other TNR drivers, Bryker, trying to do a strategy similar to yours, trying to push the tires longer than everyone else to try and get some running in clean air. Let's see how this turns out for him.
Hopefully it pays off. I mean, now we know what happened if I didn't get this con. We'll see what happens.
Although I don't think you smashed the pit lane entry wall when you made your stop, though, so that might compromise a little bit of time on him.
Yeah, possibly. There seems to be a little fight brewing up between Leachard and TNR Cosner down at 13th and 14th.
Bryker has ended up behind Uzora in the Ford GT. And yeah, sure enough, that McLaren of Cosner is slowly closing in on Leachard, one of the few Mercedes that aren't performing in the top 9 positions today. Leachard's had a bit of a slide, dropping a tire into the dirt through the Alruz and Radion complex, and Cosner's closing in. But Cosner's not been afraid to use the bumper today. He was the one who got into Avocado early on. Well, he was the one who got into Avocado and turned Avocado early on. Oh, Cosner slides the rear into the McLaren in the chicane after the Camel Straight. He's still closing on Leachard, though. So Cosner's got something hooked up, even though that car seems to be on the ragged edge of control. But yeah, Cosner's not been afraid to use the bumper. He was the one who turned Avocado in front of the field early in the event, and then he got into Uzora earlier. And speaking of which, on that strategy you were talking about, well, Bryker is using those fresher tires pretty well. He has already gotten by Uzora, and in the process, it has pushed Uzora back into the grip with Pipes and Uzora. I mean, Daniel and Uzora have had a bit of an issue. I said Pipes, I'm sorry, I meant Daniel. Pipes is way higher up the grid, but Daniel muscled his way by Uzora as well. Now, mind you, Uzora in that 4GT is already at 52% wear. I believe he is on one of the medium strategy. He is on the medium strategy right now, so that may have something to do with it, but still, Bryker wasted no time getting around Uzora here, and he is trying to get away and peel away from Daniel right now. Daniel in the BMW M8 is caught right up behind him. That's one of the interesting things within the series. For those of you who are not aware, who have not followed too closely, BMW's M4 GT3 car was added to the game about 2 months ago, and last month, all the BMW M8 drivers were allowed to cross over to the M4 without any issue. But this team, the team that NDL Daniel is on, has elected to stick with the older BMW model, and they're making it look okay, I guess. I don't really feel like either of the BMWs have an advantage over the other one, it seems. Daniel is putting Bryker, who is on fresher tires, under a bit of pressure right now, but I'm really interested to see how that's going to last as it goes on. Again, Daniel, I believe, is on a alternate strategy. I think he went soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium, or something like that, but Daniel is not on the main strategy. A lot of drivers have really kind of shaken up their strategies to try and get on alternate ideas here. And this is really the closest thing you have to a fight on the field until you get back to that fight that you were talking about earlier between Leachard and Cosner, as they're going through sector 2.
Cosner's is nearly there now. Yeah, he's right on the backside of Leachard now.
Cosner run right now reminds me a lot of Micheloshin's season, 2017 IndyCar season. He's going very fast and being very aggressive, but he's not really going anywhere with that speed or aggression right now. Dindu, Pipes, Daniel, Uzora, and Zula all making their stops as they are all on alternate strategies right now. Uzora is only making his third stop of the day. Zula, Daniel, Dindu, and Pipes, they're all their fourth strategy. Oh my goodness, Leachard had such a horrible run in the final chicane, and here comes the McLaren. He's gotta run! But he's not fast enough in a straight line to pull alongside. If Cosner's gonna get by, he needs to do it in a corner here. Leachard really wide out of the turn one hairpin. Here comes Cosner to the inside. Drag race on the run downhill to the Al Rouge and Radion complex. And Cosner's got him. Leachard's car, it was brief, but I saw Leachard get all four tires up into the air, completely off the ground, as they crested the top of the Al Rouge into Radion. It was almost like he just did a real quick skip and a hop, but he did not seem to lose any speed despite completely losing traction with the ground there. And while Cosner has the position on Leachard now, Leachard is not just falling over and falling back. He is staying right on Cosner's rear bumper here. This fight could go on for quite a bit longer.
Yeah, the draft around here it's insane. If you're the car leading, up within the corner, as soon as you get to a straight, it all closes back up again. So, be interesting to see what Leachard does here, if he wants just to follow him for now, or if he wants to try and get past again.
Looking at the tire wear right now, Leachard is only at 37.4% on that left front. Cosner in the McLaren on the other hoof, he is at 36.6. So right now, Cosner and Leachard seem to be at about the same rate of tire wear. Leachard might be wearing his tires slightly faster, but not enough for either of them to really pull out a massive advantage in clean air if one of them was to pit a lap earlier or a lap later. And here comes Leachard. He's got to run here through Sector 3. He'll go around the outside going into the final chicane. He'll back out early, though. He'll try to square himself up for a good run out of the chicane. But Cosner puts the power down without issue. Cosner still has it. Leachard has the draft. Is he going to try and make a run into the hairpin? No, not quite. Just not quite close enough. Dindu has been caught by Slow here. These two are on alternate tire strategies, if memory serves correctly. Dindu is at 11.6% tire wear right now. I think Dindu is on the mediums again, while Slow in the Mercedes, he is at 42.2% on softs. The softs are very worn out, so Slow is going to have to pit sooner rather than later, but he has caught and run down Dindu on the harder, more worn out tires. And the big thing about Dindu is that, not right now, but in a little bit, we're really going to have to keep an eye on him to see if he's going to pull off any more sick drifts, trying to keep that Ferrari out of the wall in some of these higher speed corners. So there's a bit of a fight for 7th, a fight for 10th, and then we have developed a fight for 13th and 14th as Zula and Uzora have caught each other. Uzora, who is on the harder tire compound again, I believe, is really just trying to get some speed in that Ford GT, and it's just not happening. Everyone seems to be catching him and pulling away. And then in addition, Uzora has some of the worst distance penalties of everyone thus far today. Ooh, big slide by Zula as he tried to get a little bit too aggressive on the back of Uzora. but even with that slide, he's just not losing too much time. That Mercedes, you can really chuck it in, kind of stoop it into the corners, and you're not really struggling too much.
Yeah, I think Leachers is just going to be following Cosner at this point in time. He backed off.
Maybe for the best, maybe hoping that the McLaren has a little bit of speed in the straight to give him some extra distance. Spa is full of so many straightaways that with some good navigation of the draft, you could pull off some great extra distance here. And speaking of distance, 50 minutes left in the event, and when it comes to distance penalties, everyone has gotten at least a 1/10 of a mile of a distance penalty, except for ESV Green. So ESV, the ESV team trying to drag themselves out of that hole that was opened up on them at Silverstone. One of their drivers lagged out in the second stint there and gave them, I believe, a second to last or third to last result. Well, this right now is poised to give them a great turnaround. They are going to gain not only another stint win by the looks of it, but they are going to have the stint win and another 1/10 of a mile at minimum on the rest of the field based on how this is looking. So the overall points and the overall results are going to be looking absolutely incredible for the ESV team today. And speaking of which, our leaders are all coming back in the pits. Green, Unfolded, Geekin, all making what will be their 5th stop of the day after 70 minutes. So you do the math. 5 goes into 70. 1, drop to 2, 4. You can really only go about 14 minutes. That's like 6 laps? Because a lap here is like 2:20, isn't it? So yeah, these drivers at the head of the field, and then you also have ESL Decoy and NWR Slow, they're all just trying to go 6 laps on softs pit, 6 laps on softs pit. Oh! What in the devil was that, game? Got had a huge lag spike from Dindu. From my perspective, he turned in early into the turn 1 hairpin, hit the inside wall, and launched into the air.
I had the exact same thing. That is exactly what happened when my game crashed. That's what I saw happen in front of me, and then the game crashed. So,
well, we're still.
It makes you feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't my connection, but the game.
Now that he is really, even though he's in clean air now, Dindu is still hustling that Ferrari around, and somehow he is barely keeping it under control. But on these medium tires, that Ferrari just does not have the grip that it needs, and he is just bleeding time away as this event goes on. The fact that he is still 6th right now is really just down to the fact that he is off strategy, and as this goes on, if he can pull off a 10th place finish, I would be impressed. And that's before factoring in the distance penalties. And Dindu has been sliding around so much, he has the 3rd highest distance penalty of everyone thus far in the event. He is honestly on pace to maybe have a half-mile distance penalty by the time this is over.
So it's in Chilchibo, Leachard is beating Cosno out of the pit lane.
Oh, and that could get interesting here.
I wonder if the lag spike had something to do with that when it just put the drivers off, if it happened to the drivers as well. Because them two are lengthy in the pit as the spike was going on.
Well, the gap is really big between Cosner and Leachard now. Cosner in 13 is coming into the bottom of the circuit. Leachard is well off. Also, TNR Breiker is finally making his stop.
No, the leaderboard's wrong. Ignore me. The leaderboard is showing incorrect at the moment. Yeah, no, Cosno is still ahead on the mini-map, but it's just the standings that is... I'm guessing it'll update as soon as it cross the line.
Yeah, it should. Not the first time we've seen hiccups like that happen. A bit of a fight, a three-way fight, has developed between Slow, Zula, and Uzora, although Slow is pulling away from Zula and Uzora at the moment. So it is a Mercedes Ford VT menage a trois here. We ride on board with the Ford VT of Uzora as we come down to the Al Rouge Radion Complex once again. Those Mercedes are so much faster in a straight line. And then on top of that, the Ford VT struggles to maintain grip in the Al Rouge Radion Complex. You can hear how much the tires are squealing in pain. Here comes Zola. He's got to run on Slow, side by side for a 10th position, and he'll clear him before they get to the end of the Camel Straight. Watching this fight between Zula and Slow on board with Uzora, as Uzora does not have the pace to really influence this fight, but Slow seems to be a little bit faster in the corners, but Zula may have a setup that's prioritizing straight line speed, and that coupled with the draft is going to be what I think is able to keep Zula ahead of Slow for the moment. Has the draft on Zula, but he washes wide there, really wide, and ends up losing a bunch of time. So Zula looks like he'll hold on to 10th for the moment, and now Uzora, their heavy braking, closes right up to the rear bumper of Slow, pushes the Mercedes a little wide, and now it's a drag race. Ford GT versus Mercedes down the pit lane front straightaway. Mercedes has the ideal inside line, though. How deep is he going to brake to try and get the position? Not that deep at all, but he's got to slide the car, do a slide job right in the front of the Ford GT. We'll have the outside lane on the exit. Now we got to be side by side as they come into Al Rouge and Radion once again. Someone has to back out. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, wise decision. All I saw was a big crash about to happen.
Uzora is the one who backs out. So he'll hold on to 12th, and now he's got the toe on Slow. Does he make a move into the braking? Not this time, but Uzora is much closer to Slow than they were last time around. We're going to knock out an ad break here, and when we come back, we'll see if this fight has changed at all. All right, welcome back here to Spa-Francorchamps. As you can see, Zula and Uzora both pitted. Meanwhile, Slow, who's on alternate strategy, has stayed out for a lot longer. So for the moment, at least, Slow has the advantage in the fight. Zula had just pulled away from the group before that. Also of note, Avocado had made his next stop, so this has dropped his Chevrolet back to the 5th position for the moment. But Avocado is going to come back from that big spin early on. He is on track to potentially pull off a top 5 result here. Despite having getting dumped early in the event, I guarantee you Avocado is going to be absolutely fuming now because he knows that he probably had top 3 pace today, but that early incident has really kind of derailed his results. 40 minutes left in the event, so about a third of the distance left in this stint. And if you want to see more of P1R's SEC Enduro racing, well, don't you worry, because after this stint is over, about 1 hour later, I'll be back to broadcast stint 2 for you here, and that will be at Spa, and then we'll see the field go from day to night. Things can get really interesting then, because you may see tires fall off and the car is handled a little bit differently when the track is a little bit colder. And I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands right now, you can't see it, but but yeah, so don't worry. About an hour after this is over, I'll be back with our second SEC stint, and then I believe P1R Turk will be streaming stint 3 as usual. I will not be streaming stint 3 because I have to host a season finale for a 1990s Japanese Super GT series, where we have 7 drivers in the middle of a championship fight going into the final race. So that has a little bit more priority for me, I hate to say, over running this. But Avocado runs in 5th position at the moment. And now it is Pipes and Slow who are fighting with each other. Pipes is in that BMW M4 machine. Slow is in the Mercedes. One other thing to note, P1R Turk, it has taken him about 2/3 of the event, but P1R Turk is about to go a lap down here to ESV Green. And the only thing that I can really say is that Turk is not going to be fast enough to hold Green up for enough time for Unfold to close back in on him. And I think at the rate this is going, I think this will be the last bit of traffic that Green will have to worry about for the rest of the day. I think Ziani and Alto are just fast enough that he won't have to worry about catching them before this is over.
If you want to keep it company, I'll join you for stint 2.
That's entirely up to you if you want to do that or not. I will not complain about that if you so choose. Now, I don't know if the P1R guys are going to have issues with that, but I would have no issues with that whatsoever. There's definitely room enough in the lobby for it.
Exactly. I'll ask them and see what they say.
Oh, and Green! Okay, this is going to be interesting. Green overtaking P1R Turk in the final chicane. He has finally earned his first distance penalty. Now, it's only 0.021 miles, but the big thing is, if you have gone an entire stint without a distance penalty, that is a free extra point. Green has basically thrown away an extra point in the SEC Championship. So it's not much, but again, this ESV team is trying to dig themselves out of a hole, and that's not really going to help. Again, it may not matter overall because this team is opened up such a gap over EXR Unfolded that I imagine they're going to have an easy win overall today, but still, that is one valuable point that has just kind of been thrown away as Green got a little bit too aggressive trying to get by traffic. Still, I don't think it's going to really shake up the results of this race overall. Zula and Daniel are in a little bit of a fight of their own. I'm sorry, that is Zula and Uzora in a fight of their own. 4GT versus Mercedes. The 4GT does seem to be a little bit faster than Zula and the Mercedes early on the stint. Oh, big slide by the 4GT though in that high-speed corner in Sector 3, and leaves himself open to attack by Zula coming into the chicane. Zula can't really do anything to fight back though.
Yeah, Okeen has given me the go-ahead to join you for stint 2 as well.
All right, sweet. So yeah, be sure you get a nice cup of tea or something, so that way you don't burn off your vocal cords doing both things today.
Well, hey, you got to miss Stint 3. I might have to miss the last couple of laps of Stint 2 because I've got the Tour Task Car race later on.
Ah, that is a good point. They are running at Indianapolis today, I believe, right?
It's not Indianapolis. I'll get it for you.
I know they did Daytona last weekend. But... Also, what lobby are you in? Are you in lobby A or B?
I'm not sure. I had to miss Daytona because I was out and about.
Oh, and Zula has just turned Uzora! Zula has just turned Uzora! And the start of Sector 2! Now Zula immediately pulled over as now just rolling at 5 miles an hour to try and give Uzora the time back, but that is going to massively compromise both of their runs. I'm sorry to cut you off like that, but that is the second time we've seen the 4GT get hit in that rear quarter panel. This time, though, the 4GT went all the way around into the dirt. Also, while that was going on, our leaders have all gone ahead and made their next stop. I believe they'll only have 2 more stops to the end. They might only have 1 more stop if one of them wants to go ahead and do soft medium or medium soft to the end, but I believe they'll both only have 2 more. They'll all only have 2 more stops. Also, Slow has gone ahead and made his stop, but now that Uzora and Zula have had their instant, I imagine that Slow is going to be well clear of that fight with Uzora and Slow without issue. Also, Cosner has gone ahead and made his stop, but Leechard is staying out for a little longer, so they're trying to do some alternate steps to make things happen as well now.
Yeah, well, pissed off about it, and I'll let you know it's Eagle Rock Speedway.
It's what now?
Tonight, Eagle Rock Speedway.
Oh, Eagle Rock. Oh god, it's the short 1 mile oval. Ugh,
yeah, when you gotta brake for the turns.
You don't have to brake for the corners. That's the funny thing. You really do not have to brake for the corners there. You just have to let off early enough. The thing is, so many people want to shoot really deep into the corners, not really it's going to compromise their line. Yeah. So it's so easy to get run over if you're laying off early. Yes, it's the faster way around to let off at Eagle Rock, but it just doesn't matter if the people behind you are just like, go deep, go deep, go deep, and they just run you over. Ugh. I like the fact that we have so many ovals. I'm not a big fan of NASCAR as is, but I like NASCAR racing. I'm a big fan of IndyCar and hope to bring IndyCar in at some point. But, man, Eagle Rock is just such a frustrating circuit to run at because it's got too much banking to go side by side at, but not enough. It's got both too much banking to be properly flat, but not so much banking that you can go truly side by side through there. I don't like how quickly the wall comes back at you. It's just, there's just so many things I don't like about Eagle Rock. But again, I'd rather have it than not have it. But, it's so bloody frustrating.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of who saves the most tires and who doesn't keep leaving the door wide open, because as soon as that gap is opening inside, I can see people just diving up right under there, because I don't think you can be able to overtake on the outside.
You can make an overtake on the outside if the driver ahead has a gigantic amount of tire wear. If you're on nice fresh tires and the guy ahead is at like 50-60%, yeah, you could probably do it. You can hold the outside, keep them nice and pinch to squeeze down. The other thing as well is that if you could squeeze them down, that the driver on the inside gets their inside tires below the white line and onto the flat part of the track, it really upsets the stock cars and will turn the rear and right around on them. So it's a bit dirty, but that's also a strategy that can be used.
What's going on? Let's see what Leechard comes out here.
Dindu and Decoy are in a bit of a fight for 5th position right now. And I think Dindu is going to start really feeling the tire fall off once again here in just a little bit of time. All right, well, with just about 30 minutes left, I'm going to knock out an ad break now and then hope that we only have one more ad break I need to do going to the end of this stint here. Ugh. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. Stint had a great run out of the Al Rouge Radion complex, used the draft, pulled up right behind Decoy, went for a run at the end of the Campbell Straight, but the car slid out under him. The tires on the Ferrari are just so cooked that even when he makes a move, the car cannot keep under him when he does it, so Decoy holds on to 5th. But something else I'm noticing here, we have a little bit less than 30 minutes left. If the tires can go 14 to 15 minutes, which is what I calculate on softs, but on mediums they can go about 20 minutes, Avocado is going to be in a frustrating position. He has just hit 60% wear right now. If he pits, he can put on the medium tires, but it won't last him to the end. He may have to pit and then pit a second time and do soft for the remainder of the event and hope they can close some time down. For our leaders, mainly Unfolded, because Unfolded is in second, as Avocado has obviously been closing and Unfolded bit by bit. For Unfolded, he is at 29% wear. If Unfolded can get to about the 17-18 minute mark, he might just put a stiff upper lip with the tires and just do another soft stint. But if he can only go to about 20 minutes left, Unfolded is either going to have to jump onto the mediums at the very end or make an entire extra stop. So despite getting wrecked early on, Avocado is putting some pressure on Unfolded. Now, I do specify Unfolded because Green has just absolutely opened up the gap and blitzed away from this Dodge in this most recent pit stop. But there is potentially a possibility that we could have a strategy fight for second between Unfolded and Avocado in these last minutes. The big thing, though, is that it's going to come down to what kind of tires did Avocado put on this most recent stint. If Avocado's put on mediums, he's going to have to put on softs again. He'll have to pit again with, 6-7 minutes left, or just trying to fight it out on the mediums. I just don't see that working. Unfolded, I think he's only going to have one more stop left, but I don't know if he's going to be able to push the tires out far enough that he can make the final stop be soft tires without completely bleeding time away. And then if Unfolded and Avocado both end up going with a bad tire strategy, Geekin is just close enough that if Geekin doesn't struggle with a similar tire issue, he could nip both of them and steal second and make it possibly a Mercedes 1-2. Yeah, Geekin is at roughly the same tire life as Unfolded is at this stage of the event right now. And Avocado has not only done mediums the entire time, I think he's used a soft strategy, a soft stint somewhere. Because he is on the same number of pit stops as everyone else. In fact, with the exception of Turk, who we know is doing all hards, and then Uzora and Zula, who I believe are still committing to all mediums. Everyone else is at 6 pit stops. Now, when they're making their pit stops is all over the place, but even the drivers who have used a stint on the mediums have just kind of thrown that away now, have jumped onto what I believe are just softs to the end. And for the drivers who have done all softs since the start, well, if they find themselves in a position where they have to run mediums at the very end, that could get interesting. Because if a bunch of because all these drivers have run all this time in nice clean air on fresh soft tires, but all of a sudden being on mediums in the final bit might kind of hurt them. I don't know. It's gonna get interesting. We could see some unexpected swaps for position here in the final stages of the event. But most importantly, I think, is going to be a potential fight for second and third. Daniel and Leachard have kind of found themselves on track again. Daniel runs just ahead of Leachard. Cosner, who had been fine with Leachard earlier, he has cycled his way up into 10th position now. But his tires are at 37%, so he's going to be running for quite a little bit longer in clean air. But again, Cosner has been involved in at least 2 big high-profile incidents thus far, and then also had an incident on his own solo, so I would not be surprised if we see someone looking at Cosner's result at the end of the event later. Zula runs just ahead of Daniel, but Zula is on an alternate strategy here. I mean, so many drivers are on alternate strategies here. I say they're on alternate strategies, but it feels like even the main strategy is kind of derailed. I feel like a lot of drivers have probably run at least one stint on the mediums just to try and knock it out of the way under the impression that you just can't go a reasonable distance doing only softs the entire time. I think a lot of people are going to try and just make it a 7-stop strategy, well, a 6-stop strategy or 7-stop strategy, because if you're just doing softs all the way, I think you would have to pit 8 times. And even then, it wouldn't be a nice even 8. Just because of how long the laps are. All right, Daniel's got to run on Zula. BMW on the outside of the Mercedes. This is not something we've seen a lot of non-Mercedes car overtaking a Mercedes, but Daniel's trying to make it work. Zula goes deeper under braking, though, at the end of the Camel Straight. Daniel slides wide. He still holds side-by-side for the moment. He'll try to cross over on exit, run downhill. Does not have the speed, and Daniel just does not have the confidence in the BMW to lunge deep under braking and deny Zula the inside line. And both these drivers are both at over a third of a mile in time penalties. In fact, real quickly, as we look at time penalties overall, Green has actually opened it up to 0.045 miles of time penalties, but that's still way ahead of everyone else. TNR Riker, who is in 6th, has the next slowest amount of time penalties at 0.163 miles at the moment. Indiel Avocado in the Chevy is at 0.172 miles. And again, Avocado we think is going to be fine with unfolded possibly at the end of the event. So time penalties might be what gets Avocado the second position there. The highest distance penalty thus far in the entire field, I believe, is Leachard with a 0.439, and Daniel has now gotten by Zula at the bottom of the track.
One thing to remember as well, even if they're not battling for position, it's a distance race. So, of course, every single team will be trying to stop the next car in front of them, build any form of a distance gap.
All right, here comes Zula. Will be making what I think might be his final stop. If he's jumping onto the mediums, this should be his final stop of the day. But now Daniel has to deal with Leachard in the Mercedes right behind. Our leader Green is at just about to hit 60% tire life, and he is pitting now. And we'll likely see unfolded pit as well. So the question is going to be really around Avocado. What kind of strategy is he on? And the other thing is that Avocado right now is caught behind lap traffic in the corner of P1R Turk. That's another Chevrolet. Turk moves over and lets Avocado go nice and clean here. Avocado is at 29% tire life right now. Yeah, Avocado's gonna have to pit sooner rather than later. But if Avocado can push it out to about 15, 16 minutes left, he could, well, honestly, 14 minutes would be ideal, but if he does that, he could probably make it, go softs to the end, and have a big run of speed at the very end of the event. Avocado filters back up into third. And you can see Unfolded just a little bit up the road, so Avocado continues to keep Unfolded just within his sights. But the big thing is, if Unfolded made his last stop of the day, if Unfolded is on the medium tires, it would be a little bit tight, but Unfolded would be able to go to the end on mediums, and Avocado might be on fresher rubber at the end, but he'll have to overcome an entire pit stop worth of distance. But we don't know how this Dodge is going to handle on mediums. And again, we don't even know if he is on mediums. Softs burn up about 10% by the end of the lap. So we'll see what Unfolded's tires are at the end of the lap, and we'll use that to try and figure out if Unfolded is on the softs or the mediums. Because the softs burn up about 9 to 10% after an entire lap. But if Unfolded is only at about like 6 to 7%, then he's going to be on the mediums. Cosner has made his stop. And Cosner is now at the highest of all distance penalties thus far, 0.357. No, I'm sorry, that is not the highest. Leachman still has the highest in the force. Alto and Ziani are now making their stops, but I think they're just far enough ahead. I think that they're not gonna have an impact on Green's race, and even if they do have an impact on Green's race, it's not gonna matter. Unfolded is being absolutely eaten up by Avocado right now. I think we don't have to worry about what the tire life looks like. Just look at the pace on track. Unfolded has lost so many seconds on this lap alone to Avocado. I think it's pretty obvious. Unfolded has put on the mediums to try and make it to the end here. Avocado is gonna be right on his tail coming to the line, and yeah, Unfolded is only gonna be at about 6% wear. So Unfolded is going to run the mediums to the end, and Avocado should be on fresher tires to the end of this, but Avocado will have another pit stop to make. So is Avocado going to be fast enough to pass Unfolded, open up the gap, then pit, and then run Unfolded down again? That's what it's going to come down to here. So we have a fight for second, but we don't know how much time Avocado is going to lose in pit lane exactly compared to Unfolded, who is going to be puttering around on the medium tires that we have not seen that Dodge run all day today. We also don't know how the tires are going to handle and the Dodge is going to handle as those mediums fall off, because you think of the Ferrari that is being run by NDL Dindu, and every time those tires start hitting about 45 to 50%, that Ferrari is completely out of control. If Unfolded deals with a similar issue, that will make Avocado's quest much, much easier. All right, American on American manufacturer here for the bottom two steps on the podium. Avocado is right behind Unfolded. The Dodge is not very fast in a straight line, but the Chevy is a really heavy piece of... So it's going to be really interesting to see if Avocado can get by and clear Unfolded here in Sector 2, because Sector 2 is where the Dodge is normally strongest, but it's just not strong enough to do anything right now. He's barely keeping the Chevy behind. Drew Puon, once again now.
Yep, and this will be frustrating Avocado, being stuck behind him, because he knows Tunzo Unfolded will be on the mediums, so Avocado needs to get past him as soon as possible.
But the Dodge has just enough grip and just enough tire width to hold Avocado behind him through the entirety of Sector 2 and now through Sector 3. If Avocado's going to get by, he needs to do it now and fast.
Yep, I'm expecting something to happen at the chicane.
Or it might be earlier than that.
Oh.
Muscles through. And he's got him.
So what Unfolded needs to worry about now is just trying to stay in the draft as long as he can.
For Avocado, he needs to break the draft and open up the gap as quickly as possible. And real quickly, I look at Avocado's tire life. he is at 51%. So this is Avocado's last lap on these tires. And then when he pits, it'll be about 14 minutes left, and he'll throw on softs. But he's going to have to do this entire thing all over again of running down Unfolded. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Avocado's fast, but I don't know if he's fast enough to do that.
Yeah, I don't think he got ahead in time, I don't think, because throughout this whole lap now, he's just going to have the draft, so it's going to be tight, but I don't think it'll be enough.
Yeah, the two things that Avocado has in his favor is that he is a little bit less when it comes to distance penalty. He has 0.05 miles less than distance penalty. The other thing is that we do not know how the Dodge is going to handle as the medium tires fall off. We know that as the softs fall off, he's not been having any issue. But we do not now know how Unfolded's car is going to handle as the medium tires fall off. All right, here comes Avocado into the pits with about 14 minutes left. So he'll have about 13 and a half minutes on. Oh, goodness, Avocado pounds the absolute living everything out of that outside wall. You would think that Avocado was trying to get the wall to give birth to another Chevrolet with how hard he pounded it there. But Avocado goes ahead and makes what will be his final stop of the day. Also, on these harder tires, Green is struggling a bit. Green has now pushed himself into the 0.1 mile mark when it comes to distance penalties. So Green, who had ran a very clean race early on, now started to make some mistakes and throwing away distance. But again, he still has less than half of the distance penalties of almost everyone behind. So it doesn't really impact everything, but we are starting to see a little bit of weakness from the ESV drivers. It's just it comes too late for it to really have an impact. Dindu makes his final stop of the day. Pipes makes his final stop of the day. Everyone we see pitting now is going to be throwing on soft tires. We can pretty much guarantee that. And in the end, it looks like a 7-stop is the way to go for the majority of the field here. I think everyone who was going all softs early on has kind of realized it's just better to throw on mediums at the very end to just cut out a pit stop. Uzora is on 5 pits, but he might make another one before this is over. And Zula is at 6, and then obviously P1R Turk, who is doing all hards, he is at 4, but he is a lap down, completely out of position. And yeah, there we are. Uzora is making his 6th stop of the day. So I'm going to knock out an ad break here, and then we will stick with this race to the end of the stint here. Oh. Green might not be on mediums? I don't know. Let me see. We know Unfolded is on mediums. Green might make this an 8-stop. Green has a lot more tire wear than Unfolded, but they pit at the same time. So I think that Green is on softs, and he's just going to make it. He's either going to drag the softs all the way to the end, or he's going to make an 8th stop. By the way, Green's going to give up a lot of time in these last, 5 minutes here. That'll be interesting. Probably won't mean
Another
anything.
person to look out for is Decoy. Because if Unfolded pits, which he is going to pit, Decoy isn't far behind Avocado, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one.
I don't think Unfolded is going to pit. I think Unfolded is on the mediums, and he's just going to drag the mediums to the end of the stint here.
Yes, you are correct. Ignore me. I'm having a bit of a brain fog.
I mean, you do make, I mean, to be fair, you make a good point, and if avocado does not make anything good out of the softs, and then the softs start falling off on the very last lap, Dequan might catch avocado.
Yep.
But we are under ad break right now, so literally no one has heard what we've said for the last
I know,
minute
right?
and a half.
This is like our little, this is our little,
Yeah, when I upload the stream to YouTube later, I guess you can call it the satellite feed, and the people who will watch that will hear the satellite feed conversation then.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Spa Shops here, as we are closing down here. Avocado has to run down Geekin and Unfolded. Green might be doing something interesting. He's either going to push the softs far longer than anyone else has today, or Green might be willing to make a second pit stop to put on another set of tires. And if Green elects to make another pit stop while Unfolded is on the harder mediums, immediately Unfolded might have a shot to steal this stint win. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm looking at Green's tire life. He's going to be at 50% at the end of this lap. He'll only have one more lap on the softs. And yes, thank you, game. There are 10 minutes left. It's not like we have a time, but no, Green stays out for now. So the question is Green going to drag these soft tires all the way to the end? Or is he going to make a splash and go? It's really just a tire stop and go at the very end of this. And Unfolded is in second on medium tires, third place, and Unfolded is at a tire life of 32.8%, and then Geekin, who is in third position, in another Mercedes, he is at 33%. So Geekin is on basically the same strategy as Unfolded, and then Avocado, who is fourth right now, he is on softs, but he is already at 20%, so he has a tire advantage and a tire compound advantage and a tire freshness advantage, as he is desperately trying to run down second and third. But does he have enough time? I don't think he does. I think the gap is a little bit too big, but there is a possibility. And then again, what is Green going to do? The other thing as well is that Green is about to catch NWR Zula at the rate this is going. Now, again, that shouldn't be an issue if Zula ends up making it. No, Zula's already made a stop. Oh, what in the world? My screen's just gone black. Did someone lag out?
Here. I got a feeling someone may have lagged out.
No, and that's Bryker! And Bryker was on track for a top 6 result. But that's the second TNR driver to drop out.
I guess this is a Spa curse for TNR today. It's not going well for us. I'm just hoping now Geekin will be fine.
And so late in the event as well, put in 50, not 50, I'm sorry, put in an hour and 50 minutes worth of racing only to drop out in the final moments is so aggravating. My game has said that P1R Alto has just left the group, but he's still on track, so I don't know what's happened there.
Yeah, he's still circulating. Let me have a quick look.
Oh, and there we are. Green has made a stop. He has made one more stop with just 7.5 minutes left. Is Unfolded going to be close enough to capitalize, though? I don't think Unfolded is close enough to catch Green. He's not. Green is gone far enough on the tires that he is able to use this extra pit stop. And again, Green has less distance penalty than Unfolded does.
Well, Unfolded's going to get him on the track, so it's going to be a case of Unfolded trying to prevent Green from getting more of a distance advantage.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
all
can
going to come down to
Unfolded defending.
Yeah, Unfolded's by Green, but Green is close enough that even if Green does not overtake Unfolded on track, he'll get him on distance penalty. The big thing, though, is that, again, Avocado is still trying to run down Geekin, but with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left, I don't think there's enough time. I think this is the fight. It's going to be for first, and really it's just going to be a matter of Green has to keep Unfolded in his sights. But Unfolded is on mediums, Green is on soft, so Green should be able to catch and blitz away from Unfolded without any issue here.
think unfolded just let him through, maybe? Was
No, that
another
wasn't
dodge?
unfolded.
No,
That was
another
Alto.
dodge. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the lap down of Alto. There is more traffic ahead. That would be Sir Ziani, who's just ahead of Unfolded right now.
Yeah, this could get spicy.
Yeah, but again, the big thing is distance penalty. Green has half the distance penalty of Unfolded. So unless Green has a big hiccup, it's just not going to change.
Nah, Green's got this one in the bag, but it's just whether Unfolded wants to try and stop Green's momentum any further, or...
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly important to try and keep Green held up as much as you can, but the Mercedes is so much faster in a straight line than the Dodge is that I don't really think it's going to matter. You get onto the Camel straight and Green's just going to walk you. Ziani just pulls over. He is not going to cause problems for his fight. Oh, but Green didn't know that Ziani was there, and Green moved over and ended up catching Ziani's draft just a bit in the middle of a corner. Might have compromised his line a bit, but it doesn't matter. Green's already there. All right, into the final chicane. With 5 minutes left on the clock, these guys should have enough time to do 2 full laps and a little bit more past that.
Unfolded's left the door open there.
Unfolded has a draft on Green, but you don't want to go side by side in Al Rouge and Radion.
Now, the interesting thing to see now is, does Unfolded just follow, or is it going to try and get past?
This is the closest Unfolded has been to Green in a straight for a while. He looks to the outside. Green is defending the inside. He wants to have the nice, easiest run into the corner. There's just nothing you can do. The Mercedes is just too much handling, and it's on so much fresher soft tires, while Unfolded is on moderately worn medium tires. There's just not a single thing the Dodge can do. And Avocado is nowhere close to Geekin. The only thing that might help Avocado is that Geekin is at 0.444 miles of distance penalty. That is the, I believe that is the second highest of everyone on track right now. So Geekin's really had a lot of issue here and has given up a lot of distance penalties here. Two TNR drivers are still on track. TNR Cosner in 9th and TNR Geekin in 3rd. Both of them have a lot of distance penalties. Although I don't think this is really going to affect Cosner's event because the drivers behind him have similar or more. Oh, wow, I didn't realize this. I was not even looking for 0.5s. Uzora is actually the one with the most distance penalty. He has over half a mile worth of distance penalties.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to hurt.
And Leachert is at exactly a half-mile distance penalty as well. Ugh.
Yeah, this track is a massive killer for off-track penalties. It's a massive killer.
Pretty much all other battles on track have pretty much dissolved at this point. Really, we're just watching Green pull away from Unfolded now. Credit to Unfolded, though. Made one fewer stop, and he's brought him back into fray with Green. There's just nothing you can do. The Mercedes is so much better. Even though the P1R team has gone ahead and nerfed the Mercedes coming into this event, it seems like the Mercedes is just so much better, and the top teams are able to get so much out of the Mercedes. And it's just about night as well, and that's the other thing. The lights are on the cars, and the handling's going to change a little bit, but we're so late into the event that it's not going to change enough to really up in where everyone is. This does mean, though, that all of Stint 2 will be in the nighttime hours, so we could be watching a slightly different performance when it comes to various cars in Stint 2. Also, the tires may be able to go farther or not. It's going to depend on how we really have the tires working here at night. Yeah, Avocado is just nowhere near Geekin, but Geekin is now up to 0.496 miles of time penalty. Geekin has almost 3 times the amount of distance penalties that Avocado has now. Geekin might lose third position just off the back of these time penalties he keeps stacking up here in these closing minutes.
Yep.
Unfolded just earned a bit more time penalty. They're sliding wide. You can tell that the Dodge is not handling very well on the medium tires because he's now having a lot of those slides that we were seeing from the Ferraris earlier. But it's only about 30 seconds left, so I don't think Unfolded will get to Alruz and Radion. I don't think he has to worry about wrecking at the very end here. So time's just about up, and ESV Green has led all but about 4 laps today after starting second. He has the smallest amount of distance penalty than anyone and has absolutely destroyed the field, even with making an entire extra stop. As he comes around the final hairpin for the last time, his race will end just before Alruz and Radion. And time's up, over, plow. And there's your result. And yes, Avocado
Geekin dropped to 4th.
Yep, the time penalties were too much. Avocado got 3rd at the end, but I'm sure Avocado's going to be pissed because if he did not have that accident early on, maybe a second could have been in the cards for him. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Avocado is double stinted today. If he is, we're going to see him go out for blood. I see him just trying to absolute blitz everyone.
Yeah, we're going to knock out one last ad break here, and then we're going to try and talk with some of our top finishers here at Spa-Francorchamps. So we'll be back shortly here.
Would you like me to send them invites, the top 3?
I just sent them invites, but if you want to send them invites as well, that's fine. All right, well, here comes one of them. Here comes Geekin.
Got one of them.
Yeah. Hi, Geekin. We're just going to do a quick post-stint interview once this ad break is over. All right.
Yeah, Geekin, I'm still here.
Yeah. Cosner was a 9th at the end. Yeah. Make sure that in the Xbox party you can hit the little check mark for include audio as well. Excuse me.
All right, yeah, I got it. All right, we're in.
All right, I don't think Green or Unfolded are going to join here. I'd like to be wrong, but it doesn't look like it. All right, welcome back here to Spa-Francorchamps as our first of 3 stages for the monthly P1R Enduro is over, and we have in the broadcast booth with us right now TNR and Geekin. Geekin, it's a pleasure to have you here. Looked like a 3rd place position, but in the end got nipped due to distance penalties. What do you have to say about your performance out there?
Well, honestly, I mean, I did what I could. The penalties, yeah, that was unfortunate. I was a little too greedy. But in the beginning of the stint, you know, I made it my mission. I knew I had to be able to catch the top 2. So I got past Avocado pretty early. And, you know, just tried to catch them, but their pace is pretty damn good right now. So overall, I'm happy. P3, just got to work on the penalties, work on consistency, and then yeah, see where it takes us. It's just the beginning.
All right, who is your teammate again for Stint 2?
I will be doing Stint 2. Zax has Stint 3.
Oh my goodness, you're going back to back. Well, I'll definitely probably be talking with you again then at the end of Stint 2. But oh my goodness, you're going to be a little bit exhausted.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. No one else has made an effort to jump in with us, so I think it's just going to be us. But yeah, I do want to ask you one more question, though, before we let you go. The Mercedes Mafia basically wrapped up with 9 of our 17 drivers. 8, 9, something like that, of our 17 drivers today are running Mercedes. Why are you in the Mercedes? If I was going to join the Mercedes Mafia, sell me on them. Why should I jump into the Mercedes? What in their performance is making it so attractive to you guys?
Well, we came off of the Audi, and the Audi, as quick as it is just, it chews up the tires. And the Merc was a good next choice because of tire wear and just overall consistency. I'm more comfortable with the car. We're all a little more comfortable with the car. It obviously here we need consistency. We need to be able to not have to really worry about tire wear that much and worry about our strategy. And yeah, the Merc is just, it's an all-rounder. It's very good. Aside from the build, the only thing I have to complain is stock brakes. But yeah, no, it's a great car. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that.
All right, hey, thanks. It's nice to hear something about it, because it's one thing if I'm just here in the broadcast booth bitching about the fact that half the field is made out of one car. It's another thing if I'm actually trying to reach out and understand why. At least I can pretend to be doing something of value then. It's better to do something and just aimlessly bitch about something. But yeah, all right. Well, we'll be looking forward to what you can do in the next stint, and hopefully the entire TNR team has a bit of a positive rebound in Stint 2 in about an hour's time. But until then, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13. I was joined by a driver donated by the TNR team, TNR VER Callum, as our driver analyst. And we'll be back in about an hour's time to cover Stint 2, a full night run here at Spa Francorchamps. Until then, thank you very much for joining. Stay safe, everyone. Farewell and goodbye.
See you there.